My name is Ryan. I'm 40 years old. My wife, Chloe, is 38, or I should say, my ex-wife. It's strange, even after everything, how the old titles stick to your tongue like a bad taste you can't spit out. It all ended in a conference room under the cold, fluorescent lights of a corporate skyscraper. But it started in our kitchen, under the warm, celebratory glow of our 15th anniversary party. We had a house full of people, friends, family, colleagues. Laughter was spilling out of the living room, the sound of champagne corks popping. I had just given a speech, my voice thick with emotion, talking about the 15 years I'd spent with the love of my life. I talked about the day we met, the day we bought our home, the life we built, brick by brick. I raised my glass to her, and she smiled, that brilliant, camera-ready smile of hers, the same one that had charmed her way to the top of her marketing firm, the same one that had charmed me into believing our life was perfect. An hour later, I slipped into the kitchen to grab another bottle of wine from the fridge, and that's when I heard them, her and her sister, Sarah. They were huddled by the pantry, their voices low and urgent, thinking they were hidden from the noise of the party. "You can't keep doing this, Chloe," Sarah whispered. "It's getting too risky." Chloe let out a sigh, a sound of pure exhaustion. "I know, but what am I supposed to do? He's everything. He wants me to leave Ryan. He said he's tired of hiding." The name, Mark Jennings, her CEO, the man she'd called her mentor, the man I'd shaken hands with at company Christmas parties, the man whose wife I knew by name. The wine bottle in my hand felt impossibly heavy. The chatter from the living room faded into a dull roar, like the sound of the ocean pulling away from the shore, leaving a sudden, terrifying silence. My heart wasn't racing, it just stopped. It felt like a stone had been dropped into my chest. I backed away slowly, my feet numb on the hardwood floor we'd picked out together. I walked back into the party, a ghost in my own home. I watched her across the room, laughing with our friends, her hand on someone's arm. She was a performer, and tonight was her greatest show. And I was the fool in the front row, clapping along to a story that was never about us. How do you unhear something like that? How do you unknow a truth that shatters every single memory you thought you owned? Our story had always been the one people envied. We met in our 20s, two ambitious kids with nothing but a shared dream of a better life. I was a junior architect. She was a marketing intern. We built our lives from the ground up. I designed the extension on our house. She decorated it with impeccable taste. We were a team, Ryan and Chloe. It was a brand. The first few years were a beautiful struggle. Late nights, cheap takeout, and the kind of love that feels invincible. But as we climbed our respective ladders, something shifted. Her work became all-consuming. The late nights became more frequent. The business trips piled up. I told myself it was for us, for our future. I'd make her dinner, have it waiting when she got home at 10 p.m., exhausted. I'd listen to her stories about office politics, about landing a big client, about how Mark Jennings was giving her more and more responsibility. I was her cheerleader, her support system. I was so proud. Looking back, the red flags were there. They weren't just flags. They were giant, waving banners, and I was just too blind or too trusting to see them. There was the phone, suddenly glued to her hand, angled away from me whenever a text came in. "It's just work," she'd say, with a dismissive wave. "You wouldn't understand the pressure." There was the new lingerie, not the kind she ever wore for me, silky, expensive things I'd find in the back of her drawer. When I asked, she'd laughed it off. "A girl's gotta feel good for herself, right?" There was the emotional distance. It wasn't a sudden chasm, but a slow, creeping drift. We stopped talking about our future. We stopped touching in the quiet moments. Our bed became a cold, empty space between two people who were more like roommates than a husband and wife. I tried to talk to her about it once. Is everything okay, Chloe? I'd asked one night, as she was getting ready for bed. You seem far away. She turned from the mirror, her face a mask of practiced annoyance. I'm just stressed, Ryan. My career is demanding. Not everyone gets to sit around drawing lines on a piece of paper all day. The jab stung. My work, my passion, reduced to drawing lines. It was the first time she'd ever used her success as a weapon against me. It was meant to shut me down, and it worked. I retreated, telling myself I was being needy, that I needed to be more understanding of the pressure she was under. I was the good husband, the supportive husband, the idiot husband, the night of the party. After the last guest had stumbled out into the darkness, the silence in the house was deafening. She was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she stacked glasses in the dishwasher, the picture of domestic bliss. I stood in the doorway, the words I'd overheard playing on a loop in my head. Mark wants me to leave Ryan. Who's Mark? I asked. My voice was quiet, hollow. She didn't turn around. Her hands froze over the sink. What are you talking about? He's my boss. You know that. No, I said, stepping into the room. Who is he to you? She finally turned, and the mask was gone. In its place was a cold, hard defiance. I don't know what you think you heard, Ryan, but you're tired. We're both tired. Let's just go to bed. I heard you, Chloe, I said, my voice cracking. I heard you and Sarah. He wants you to leave me. For a second, I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes. Just a flicker. Then it was gone, replaced by steel. She crossed her arms, a general preparing for battle. You were eavesdropping on our anniversary? That's pathetic. Gaslighting. It's a word you hear, but you never truly understand its power until it's used on you. It's a form of psychological warfare. It's designed to make you question your own sanity. Don't do this, I begged. Don't turn this on me. Just tell me the truth. The truth? She scoffed. The truth is that you're insecure. You always have been. You can't handle my success. So you're inventing this drama to make yourself the center of attention. And there it was. Her narrative. I wasn't the supportive husband. I was the insecure anchor holding her back. The lies were so audacious, so complete, that for a terrifying moment, I almost believed her. Was I crazy? Did I mishear? But then I remembered the look on her sister's face, the worry, the guilt. That night, she slept in the guest room. It was the first night we had ever spent apart in that house. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the empty space beside me like a physical wound. The sheets still smelled of her perfume. I pulled her pillow to my chest, inhaling the scent of the woman I loved and the stranger who had just destroyed me, and I cried. I cried until there was nothing left but a raw, empty ache. The next few weeks were a special kind of hell. A cold war fought in the hallways of our own home. We were ghosts to each other, communicating through clipped one-sentence text messages. She acted like nothing was wrong, like I was the one creating the tension. She'd walk out of the house in her power suits, briefcase in hand, a picture of confidence, leaving me behind in the wreckage. I knew I needed proof, not for me. I already knew the truth. I needed proof because her denial was so absolute that I started to feel like I was losing my mind. I called her sister, Sarah. I met her for coffee, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the cup. Please, Sarah, I begged. Just tell me what's going on. I need to know. She wouldn't look me in the eye. She stirred her latte, her gaze fixed on the swirling foam. It's not my place, Ryan. Not your place? I said, my voice rising. You stood in my kitchen and listened to your sister talk about leaving me for another man. This is my life, my marriage. It is absolutely your place." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. "You've already hurt me," I shot back. "You hurt me by letting me live a lie. How long?" She finally looked at me, her face a mess of pity and shame. "About a year," she mumbled. "A year, 365 days of lies. A year of dinners I made for her while she was texting him. A year of anniversaries and birthdays celebrated under false pretenses. A year of me thinking we were a team while she was building a new life with someone else." The betrayal from Chloe was a knife to the heart. The betrayal from her sister was the twisting of that knife. The one person who could have told me the truth, who could have saved me from months of delusion, chose to protect the liar instead of the person being lied to. That conversation with Sarah was the turning point. It snapped me out of my grief and into a cold, hard reality. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a conspiracy. I went home and did something I never thought I'd do. I opened our shared laptop and I started digging. It didn't take long. She was arrogant. She was careless. She thought I was too stupid or too in love to ever look. I found the credit card statements, our joint account. I'd always let her handle the finances, trusting her completely. And there it was, a roadmap of her affair. Hotel charges for the Ritz-Carlton in cities where her company had no office. Dinners for two at restaurants I'd never been to. On nights she was supposedly working late. Flights booked for two to places she told me she was going alone for a conference. But the real treasure was in a hidden folder on the desktop. It was labeled marketing projects. Inside were not spreadsheets or presentations. They were emails between her and Mark Jennings, saved as PDFs. They weren't just logistical, they were graphic, they were intimate. They talked about their future together. They talked about me. In one email, Mark wrote, "Just tell him, the sooner you cut the cord with that dead weight, the sooner we can start our life." Chloe's reply, "I will. I just need to find the right time. He's so fragile. It's like dealing with a child. But don't worry, my love. It's you I want. It's always been you. Fragile, dead weight, a child." Reading those words was like being set on fire. The sadness, the grief, it all burned away. And all that was left was a white, hot rage. The man who had loved her, supported her, and built a life for her was reduced to an obstacle, a piece of baggage she needed to discard. I lost myself for a while after that. I stopped going to work. My business partner, David, a friend since college, would call, his voice full of concern. "Ryan, what's going on? You need to come in." I'd just mumble an excuse and hang up. I stopped eating. I lost 20 pounds. I'd just sit in the dark, in the house I designed, surrounded by photos of a life that was a lie, and I'd drink. I'd look in the mirror and see a stranger, a hollowed-out shell of a man. His eyes were sunken. His face was pale. I was 40 years old, and I felt like my life was over. What was I without her? Who was Ryan, if not Ryan and Chloe? My identity was so wrapped up in being her husband that I had forgotten how to just be me. The shame was suffocating. The shame of being cheated on, of being the fool who didn't see it coming. One morning I woke up on the couch, the sun streaming through the windows, the house smelling of stale whiskey. My phone was buzzing on the coffee table. It was a text from her. "I'm coming by at noon to pick up the rest of my things. I'll be bringing divorce papers. My lawyer says this should be simple if you're cooperative." Cooperative. The word was so cold, so clinical, like this was a business transaction. And then it hit me. To her, that's exactly what this was. A merger, an acquisition. She was divesting from a failing asset, me, and merging with a more profitable one. Her CEO. That was the trigger. The moment the fog of my depression cleared and was replaced by a sharp, crystalline clarity. She wasn't just leaving me. She was trying to erase me, to dispose of me like a piece of garbage. The fragility she mocked? It was gone, the dead weight she complained about. It was about to become an anchor that would drag her to the bottom of the ocean. She had made one critical mistake. She had underestimated me. She saw me as the gentle, supportive, fragile architect. She forgot that architects are meticulous planners. They understand structure. They know that if you remove the right support, the entire building will collapse. And her career was the building she loved more than anything, more than me. I spent the next 2 weeks not drinking, not mourning, but working. I took a leave of absence from my firm. I told my partner David everything, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel shame. I felt his unwavering support. He saw my pain, but he also saw my resolve. I compiled my evidence into a dossier, not an emotional rant, but a cold, factual presentation. It was beautiful in its brutal efficiency. Section 1. A detailed timeline. On one side, Chloe's stated whereabouts, late night at the office, conference in Chicago. On the other side, the evidence, a hotel folio from a boutique hotel in the same city, but a different location, a dinner receipt from a 2-star Michelin restaurant. Section 2. Financials. I highlighted every questionable charge on the company card I could find evidence for, and on our joint accounts, the flights, the gifts, the weekend getaways disguised as business trips. It amounted to tens of thousands of dollars in what was essentially theft. Section 3. The emails. I printed out the most damning ones, the ones where they discussed company business, and then in the next paragraph, their sexual encounters, the ones where they openly mocked me. I included the one where Mark promised her a promotion and a significant raise, contingent on her handling the situation at home. It was a clear-cut case of an inappropriate relationship, abuse of power, and misuse of corporate funds. I knew Chloe's company had a huge annual shareholder meeting coming up in 3 weeks. It was the biggest day of their corporate year. Mark Jennings, as CEO, would be giving the keynote address, and Chloe, his star head of marketing, was scheduled to present the new global marketing strategy right after him. It was the pinnacle of her career, the moment she had been working towards for years. The day of the meeting, I put on my best suit, the one I had worn to our 10th anniversary dinner. It felt like putting on a suit of armor. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time in months, I recognized the man staring back. He was older. His eyes carried a new hardness, but he was there. Ryan was there. I walked into the lobby of the downtown hotel where the conference was being held. It was buzzing with people in expensive suits, all wearing lanyards with the company logo. I wasn't there to cause a scene. I wasn't going to stand up and shout. That was her style. All drama and performance. My style was quiet, precise, and devastating. I bypassed the main ballroom. My target wasn't the audience. My target was the board of directors. I had done my homework. I knew the name of the chairman of the board, a formidable old man named Arthur Vance. I found him in a smaller reception area, talking with a few other silver-haired executives. I walked up to them, my heart pounding, but my hand steady. "Mr. Vance," I said calmly. He turned, a look of mild annoyance on his face. "Yes?" "My name is Ryan Miller," I said, extending my hand. He shook it reluctantly. "I'm Chloe Miller's husband. I won't take up much of your time. I just have something I believe the board needs to see. It concerns a serious ethical breach and a significant misuse of company funds by your CEO, Mark Jennings, and your head of marketing." I handed him the slim black folder. It was simply labeled, "For the attention of the board of directors." His eyes narrowed. He looked from the folder to me, then back to the folder. He saw the cold seriousness in my eyes. He saw this wasn't some hysterical, scorned spouse. This was a threat. "Excuse me, gentlemen," he said to the men he was with, and he stepped aside. He opened the folder. I watched his face as he scanned the first page, the timeline. His expression went from annoyance to curiosity, then to deep, grave concern. He flipped the page to the financial statements. His jaw tightened. He flipped again to the emails. His face turned to stone. He didn't say a word. He just closed the folder, tucked it under his arm, and looked at me. There was a silent understanding in his eyes. He nodded once, a sharp, decisive gesture, and he walked away, heading towards a door marked private. I turned and walked out of the hotel. I didn't wait to see the fallout. I didn't need to. I had laid the dynamite, lit the fuse, and walked away. The explosion was inevitable. 2 days later, a press release went out. Mark Jennings and Chloe Miller had resigned, effective immediately, to pursue other opportunities. The corporate world is a master of understatement. The rumor mill, which David kept me updated on, was less discreet. The story was one of an affair, embezzlement, and a massive scandal that the board was desperately trying to keep under wraps. Chloe called me that night, her voice a sound I had never heard before. It was stripped of all its confidence, all its arrogance. It was the voice of someone who had lost everything. "You destroyed me," she hissed. "You ruined my life." I stood by the large window in my living room, looking out at the city lights. The house was sold. Most of our things were in boxes. "No, Chloe," I said, my voice even and calm. "You destroyed yourself. You just made me the architect of your demolition. You, of all people, should know. A building with a rotten foundation can't stand forever." I hung up before she could reply. I blocked her number. I blocked Sarah's number. I cut them out of my life like the cancer they were. The divorce was swift. With the evidence of her infidelity and her career in flames, she had no leverage. She got nothing. No house, no alimony. Just her ambition, now turned to ash. It's been a year since that day. I live in a smaller apartment downtown now. It's simple, clean. It's mine. I'm back at my firm, and my work has never been better. There's a focus and a clarity I didn't have before, but I want to be honest with you. The revenge didn't fix me. It didn't magically heal the wound. There's no triumphant music playing in the background of my life. Ruining her career didn't bring back the man I was. It didn't erase the 15 years of lies. Some nights, the silence in my apartment is still loud. It's a silence filled with ghosts of a life I once loved. The pain is a scar now, not a raw wound. It's a part of my architecture, a flawed foundation I've had to reinforce. People ask me if I regret it, if I think what I did was too cruel. And the truth is, I don't. It wasn't about cruelty. It was about justice. It was about taking the power back. She built her career on a throne of lies, and I simply kicked it out from under her. The ultimate irony is that she taught me my final lesson. She always said business was about strategy, not emotion. And in the end, I took her advice. I treated the end of our marriage like a hostile takeover, and I won. But when you win a war like that, you don't celebrate. You just stand in the quiet aftermath, and for the first time in a long time, you start to rebuild on solid ground.